Your station, 101 FM, with Saturday Sports Scene.
Good morning and welcome to Sports Scene for another week here on 101 FM. Kevin Braysher here with you as always on what is a very important day for Australia. One side wins, one side will lose. I am of course talking about the rugby tonight, Australia up against South Africa at Suncorp Stadium. Something else happening today, I'm not really sure what it is. Guys, to talk me through everything else that's going on in the world of sports today, welcome to the panel, Mr. Darren Madigan, the founding father of Sports Scene. Welcome to the show, mate.
Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, everybody. What a week it is. Can you smell it? It's spring. The grass is just that little bit greener, and it means one thing: football finals. And you think we're not excited? Oh, gee, I tell you what, locally we've got grand finals happening. At a national level, we're just about to start the finals. The cricket's been washed out over in England, but there's been a lot of other good things going on around the place, and it's business end for the tennis in the final Grand Slam of the year. We'll bring you up to date on all of that shortly. I'm going to have a great weekend and try not to get too bogged down in, that thing that's happening today that we've got to all go and do.
That other thing. Yes, Craig Crowley's back he's on the show again, for Queensland Hall of Famer. Southport Sharks, mate. And speaking of the Southport Sharks, another big weekend for you guys coming up this weekend.
Yeah, fortunately we got through, and we've got a preliminary final tomorrow, which we play against Asprey. I'm looking forward to that. We've got all three grades playing tomorrow, so hopefully we can have some really good stuff for the club. But as Darren said, you can just smell it, can't you? The footies, the finals it's just another elite time of the year when it comes to our sports.
Yeah, I think September's probably my favourite month of the year. It's fantastic. And also joining us on the show from the East Tigers, Mr. Ethan James. And mate, it's been a big week for the East Tigers as well.
It has. East Tigers, of course, won last weekend, which saw them finish third in the ladder in the Intro Super Cup, which means they're playing a qualifying semi-final tomorrow up there in Mackay. And of course, at the GCRL Awards dinner the other night, which we were both at, Kev. Good food all around.
Decently dressed human beings.
Decently dressed human beings, that's scrubbed up all right. Cody Walker won the best and fairest for the competition, so sensational year for him.
Absolutely, and East Tigers, of course, picking up the club championship as well.
Yeah, that's it. The reserve grade finished with the minor premiership, and the under-20s Colts finished with the minor premiership as well. So a successful regular season, but once again, as the old cliche goes, it all starts again in finals.
That it certainly does, and it starts all again last night in the AFL with the qualifying final. Hawthorn up against Sydney 1v4. Didn't turn out as closely as a lot of people probably thought it was going to. 15-15, 105 to Hawthorn over Sydney 7-9-51. Hawthorn, no Buddy, no Cyril. Mate, how good were they?
Yeah, they're look, I just thought Sydney were going to win the game, not because of the loss of their players. I just thought they had that much class, but you really saw the hurt, especially of Henry, who was really below his ability, especially so because he was so good last year in the finals. But they just tackled the house down. The perceived pressure was just unbelievable. It just proves the point that you don't have to have the great footballers playing in your side to be a really good side. They're just a complete unit. Luke Holdridge was just absolutely tremendous, and they gave him the opportunity why they would free him up and let him be loose down backs beyond me, but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
We certainly will. We'll talk all the Aussie rules football inside the first hour of the show. In the NRL, the final round of the competition, round 26, and last night down at ANZ Stadium in front of 60,000 people, which is a record regular season crowd down there. It was just the game for the minor premiership essentially, and the Roosters were the ones who came out on top 24-12, defeating the Rabbitohs in a very, very high quality game of football. And we were saying just before, Ethan, it felt like the semi-finals had come early.
Yeah, it did, and just the way the crowd turned out. I mean, Sydney was really embracing the success of those two teams, and of course the battle for the minor premiership in the final round, something pretty special. Sets up a really exciting final series as well. I'm looking forward.
There was so much quality in that match. One of the great highlights was when Greg Inglis and Sonny Bill Williams collided. Sonny Bill raced out of the line to put a shot on Inglis, and they bounced back, and Inglis, being the freak that he is, bounced away, pushed through about three other defenders and scored anyway. But Sonny Bill got him back later in the night and had it. It's party Mitchell Pearce's try, which was fantastic. So, look, quality players all around. They'll both be there deep into the finals, and looking forward to the semi-finals, that's for sure. Also, this week so far in the NRL, on Thursday night, the Broncos finished their season on a high with a 16-11 win over the Bulldogs at Suncorp Stadium. Scotty Prince nailing a conversion from the sideline as one of his last acts on the side. He had a really good game, Scotty Prince, in his 300th and final game in the NRL, and what a way to finish a great career for him. It was nice that he got to go out on a win for what a brilliant career he's had.
Yeah, that's it. And we sort of spoke about it a bit last week on the show, the fact that he's probably been a bit underrated through his whole career in terms of he never really receives the accolades, but to play 300 games, of course, he won the premiership with the West Tigers, to come back from 2 broken legs, and to achieve some of the things he's done is really quite remarkable. And probably didn't finish the way he wanted in terms of the Broncos where they finished this year, but yes, a sensational career.
Absolutely, a great send-off for him on Thursday night. And the cricket, the one-day series between Australia and England was meant to get underway last night. It rained all day at Headingley, and play was completely abandoned. So Game 2 of the series gets underway in Manchester on Sunday, so we'll have more of that a little later. Darren Madigan, what else is happening in the world of sport?
It's all happening, Kevin, right at this moment while we speak. I'm just taking a look here. Serena Williams has bageled Lee Na in the first set, 6-love, but Lee Na is just fighting to try and hold off Serena, rounding it out. And as I speak, damn. All right, there you go. Serena Williams has just served and then won the match. 6-love, 6-3. Lee Na was managing to hold serve in the previous game and just trying to hold off the inevitable, but now she's lost. So that means Serena goes through to the final now against Victoria Azarenka, who you heard in the news had just beaten Flavia Pennetta 6-4, 6-2. So probably two of the players that you really did expect to be there, 1 and 2 really in the world playing against one another. Getting back to matches that are to be played, we have the men's semi-final. Novak Djokovic and Stanislas Wawrinka, which should be an absolute beauty because Stan has been in some good form this year. Should really push Novak. And Richard Gasquet up against Rafael Nadal. For me, this is going to be just such an enjoyable game to watch. Rafa with his power and Richard Gasquet with what I think is the best backhand in tennis. So we've got the men and the women sorted there. The men's doubles final will be between Leander Paes and Radek Stepanek from India and Czechoslovakia or Czech Republic, sorry. And they'll be playing Alexander Payer from Austria and Bruno Soares from Brazil. In the women's doubles semi-final, we have Serena and Venus teaming up to take on Andrea Halakova and also Lucy Heredica. And in the other semi, we have Sania Mirza, Zhang Zhui, who is an absolute expert at doubles, up against our Australians, Ashley Barty and Casey Delac. And I'll tell you what, they're earning some coin this year playing doubles together. They've done really, really well. So that'll be the semi-finals. The mixed doubles final has been played. Abigail Spears and Santiago Gonzalez have gone down to Andrea Hlavakova and Max Murney 7-6, 6-3. So that pretty much brings up to date on the tennis, except one thing here, we do have an Australian. I'll just bring it up. We have an Australian playing in the doubles semi-final, and that's, I hope I pronounced this right, Tanasi Konikanis from Australia, teaming up with Christian Garin from China, and they'll be playing in a semi-final very shortly against Alexander Zverev and Borna Coric. So that brings you up to date on the tennis. We have an NPL soccer grand final tomorrow, and that will be played at Goodwin Park. And that's Olympic FC playing Brisbane City. That's tomorrow evening. Unusual time, I know. Sunday at 6 p.m. Earlier this week, the NFL started. I think that was on Thursday night. And the Baltimore Ravens, the current champs, went down to the Denver Broncos, 49-27. So that gets things kicked off in the NFL. I can also tell you Usain Bolt gave a pretty good indication that he will retire after the next Olympics, and those of us who'd love to see him running the lap, the 400 and also the long jump, well, he's got about as much interest in those events at the moment as I have in having to cover this election today. So I think that we're not going to see him doing all of that sort of stuff. Now, the golf, both the men's and the women's today aren't happening. They're taking the week off. And I can tell you now, with the Formula One, we're at the Festival of Speed this weekend at Monza. After practice session 2, Seb Vettel and Mark Webber leading the timesheets from Kimi Räikkönen and Romain Grosjean. And during the week, it was finally officially announced, perfectly blatantly obvious, that Daniel Ricciardo will be stepping into the Red Bull seat. There's been no announcement who his replacement will be at Toro Rosso, but Daniel Ricciardo is currently 17th in the timesheets for Toro Rosso for the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. We are smack bang right now as we speak in the middle of qualifying for NASCAR at Richmond this weekend. At the moment, Kurt Busch has provisional pole from Clint Boyer. And I'll just scroll down. Marcus has slipped from 13th down to 19th in the last few minutes. And we still have probably, just under half the field set to do their laps for qualifying there at Richmond. So we'll keep you up to date a bit later in the show on that. And a big good luck to my old footy team, Hermit Park Footy Club up in Townsville. They're playing in the grand final in the seniors this afternoon against the old nemesis, the Thurringau Bulldogs, and they're also in 3 other grades as well. So good to see.
Certainly, mate. Big show here planned on Sports, and as we say, so much to talk about with all the footy finals coming up and the US Open finals approaching and all the rest of that. But second half of the show, Lee Hanatscheck will be on the phone with us to talk us through the world of motorsport. Paul Stewart will be with us to talk netball. And coming up after the break, we've got Greg Seaton-Lonsdale, coach of the Redlands Footy Club, fresh out of the NEFL competition last week. They went down to Craig's Southport Sharks. He'll be on the phone with us to chat through the NEFL and the preliminary final, of course, taking place tomorrow afternoon. So we'll take a break here on SportsScene. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Here on 101 FM, 19 minutes past 8. Your next fresh news update coming up at the top of the hour at 9 o'clock. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Ethan James, Craig Crowley all here with you. And joining us on the line is the coach of the Redlands Footy Club in the NEFL competition, Greg Seaton-Lonsdale. Mate, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, Greg.
Mate, it's great to have you here. Of course, we're talking the NEFL competition, which is deep into the semi-finals at the moment. Your side, Redlands, went down to Southport last week, 16-13, 109 to 11-12, 78. Mate, tell us about the game.
Oh, look, I think Southport got the jump on us early with a bit of a slight breeze behind their back, and we just weren't able to peg it back for the rest of the day, which is a little bit disappointing from us, I suppose. But look, they were just too good on the day, Southport.
Yeah, Greg, look, you've finished 4th this year, and it was really, really commendable, and you had the side there, no doubt, to mix it with the best. Do you feel the year was a success finishing 4th? Obviously, it's not because you haven't won a grand final, I understand that, but, just your infrastructure, the way things are going, and obviously looking towards next year on the new concept, how do you at the moment?
Well, I thought we had, most people had high expectations at the beginning of the year, and we just felt that we took a bit longer than we thought to kind of gel as a side. But look, to finish where we were 8 weeks out when we really didn't look like making the finals, to finish 4th was a pretty commendable effort by the boys, I thought. I think from that effort and the understanding of what needs to be done, I think it puts us in good stead for going into next year's comp, and we joined Southport and Aspley, the 2 AFL sides here in Queensland.
Yeah, just on that, on your run to the finals, I understand you won your last 5 games to qualify. Do you think maybe all that sort of, playing that pressure sort of footy each week perhaps took its toll, or how do you think that sort of played out?
Well, it probably did on the end. We probably looked a little bit, burnt out late in the game against Southport, which I thought was, again, just a bit disappointing with the case. But when you look back and think of the effort, what needed to be done to even make the finals, to beat 4 of the top 5 sides in those 5 games, it was a massive effort. And you look back at their effort, and you can't be anything but happy in the way the boys performed.
Yeah, especially when you look at that too, Greg. Like I went up and witnessed the game against Morningside, who just really gave it to you. They, obviously Morningside are what Morningside are. They're a great competitive group, and they just really tackled the house down and made it really hard. And that day, Steve Gardner was just sensational, and probably was the difference at the end of the day. On the harder ground, and with the amount of pressure that they really did put on you, that really took its toll. It looked like it took its toll last week.
Yeah, look, I think that was probably a bit our fault, the coaching group. I thought we probably trained a little bit harder leading into the Morningside game. We probably didn't respect how hard I think the last game of the year against Southport was.
Yep.
We need to win that game to make the finals and have, a couple other results go our way, which they did. But looking back, that was probably our mistake. We were really flat against Morningside, and they threw everything at us. And I think just on the day, I think just talent alone got us over the line at certain times. And I just didn't think we could pick up after that. It was a bit of a shame, but you learn from mistakes as a coach as well as a player. And we try to just freshen them up for Southport, but I just think that those two hard games against Southport and Morningside late in the year really got us.
Mate, so obviously, yourself personally, you're taking the reins again next year?
Certainly in discussions with Marty and the Redland board, I'd like to. I suppose we just want to see how it all comes together with the new competition, what the league expects of us as a footy club, etc. But I'll certainly be throwing my hat in the ring,
And looking into next year, mate, I suppose it's an unknown sort of situation, how it's going to go, and what's going to be able to attract players to the three clubs, and how we're going to get players from, hopefully, the up and coming players from the other NEFL clubs of this year. What's your thought process and the way we're going to go and way it's going to be handled and how hard it's going to be, especially with no reserve grade? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, it's going to be a little bit different. I think the rookie addition to your list is a great idea, having those 10 rookies available. I think also there was a couple of suggestions that maybe they might lift that under 18 to an under 19, under 20. I think that would be really beneficial if we could lift it to around the 19, 20 year age bracket, just to keep those blokes that, and we all know Queenslanders seem to develop a little bit, maybe a couple of years behind the Victorians or WA people, the young kids over there. And you can see by how our kids get recruited a couple of years after they finish the state league program. I think that'd be a great idea, and I think it can work. But it's going to be a lot of work for the three clubs that are involved to make sure they get their structures right at their football club, to make sure these kids have a pathway to get back into the AFL.
Darren?
G'day, Greg. Darren Madigan here, mate. As far as just following on from what Craig just asked you, we obviously know with less teams, there's only so many players that go into so many teams, so you would expect that the quality of the competition might even rise a bit with a lot of quality players on the market. How long? What's the process now? How long before you guys sit down and start culling and start talking to players? I mean, I know you haven't got a draw or anything yet, but you must have an idea of, because this has been going to happen for a while. What's your process? What sort of time frames are we looking at?
Look, I think now that we're out of the finals race, I believe that Marty King, which is our football manager, he's already into that process now, contacting players, obviously first at our football club, to see if they want to continue. They want to put their name up to become one of these 35 people in the squad, and then obviously contacting other players that are out of the finals to see if they're interested in maybe coming over and playing for the Redlands Football Club.
Okay. With the way things are set up, obviously we don't have a final situation yet for the secondary comp. Is there a chance, obviously I don't know what's happening with the reserves and that, is there a chance that teams like yourself, Southport and that actually have teams already in a reserve grade comp, you guys will be fielding teams further down in other divisions?
Look, I think that's a possibility. I certainly know Aspley do that already now, but it just worries me that if you're in the squad of 35, for example, and you want to come back and play for Redlands, and we've got a kind of a second side, I think that will be in Division 2, which I think the standard of footy would be probably not up to standard. So it's probably been detrimental to those blokes if they're going to go back to the Division 2, where really if they're going to miss out on a game of football, they really should go back to the next best league, which is obviously the Division 1, which they're trying to piece together now.
Yeah, I suppose that there is a huge difficulty in that. They tried it a few years ago with the third division playing Colts teams and that, and there was just too many teams in the existing comp that just didn't want to have a bar of it because they were worried about getting thumped every week by a bunch of fit young kids. But do you have any idea? Do you have any more information from yourselves at club level yet on what is happening next year? Any further changes in terms of how it's going to affect your club?
No, unfortunately, mate, I'm just the senior coach. Yep. And I'm like you, I just, when it comes out, I find out. That's about all. I don't have the privilege of finding all that information out already. So, no, I don't have any additional information. I'm sorry.
Sorry, it helps you out a little bit, Darren. I think what Greg touched on, and the fact that we're getting hopefully an upgrade now under 18s and taking them to under 19s probably allows you to have an under 19s competition which your players can sort of develop through that actually gives you the opportunity to bring kids through a lot already developed as men. As Greg said, they're not as quick developing as what they are in the southern states. So if they do up it to either 19 or even into 20 and let these kids play in their environment where they can grow naturally, and then they probably gives you a way to bring them through with your list of 35 that you've got, which are going to be billeted out into other teams as they did with the Lions and the Suns to start off with. But if they bring the age of the under-19s, if this helps you at all, it probably helps you strengthen and get players into your list a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I hope so, because, I mean, as you know, Craig, as I've said many times down through the years on this show, I'm not a fan of playing kids in reserves. I'd rather see them play in their age group, and if they're good enough, then they move into senior footy. There are too many, especially in the lower divisions, there are too many ways to get hurt in reserves for young kids, and all of a sudden you've ruined a career. So, I just hope they get that development pathway right. So that's just my fingers crossed.
Yeah, but looking at the reserve grade, Greg, you'd agree with this. The age of the kids running around in reserve grade now has really decreased, in the way of getting your average age to around about 20 to 21. So you haven't got the thugs getting around anymore in reserve grade with us. So if that does develop and we do end up having a reserve grade, it'll be more like a youth policy, don't you think, Greg?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think virtually now most reserve grades are very, very young kids.
Yep.
And to be honest, a lot of the senior sides have a very young list compared to other states. So, yeah, it's very important that they get that bracket right, that age bracket right for Queensland footy. I know it doesn't mirror in well with, your Victorians and your WA and South Australians, but I think for us to give our kids the best opportunity, I think we've got to have like a 19 or an under 20s, just so we can nurture them through so they can really start to blossom when they get to around the 20 years of age.
Greg, just finally from me, what's the feeling around the club? You guys know you're playing in that tier next year. Obviously, you don't know finally who you're playing with the final draw and everything yet, but you know you're there. I mean, you're one of the few teams that are going to be representing Queensland. What's the feeling around the club?
Oh, look, I think the playing group's excited to be part of it. It's, as you guys said, hopefully it will just lift the standard again for the comp, and to be part of a comp like that in Queensland. We're very excited, and I think the club in itself is excited going forward. And I'm sure once we get all our playing list of 35 plus your 10 rookies and your under 18s, 19s or 20s, whatever they turn out to be, I think it's going to be exciting times for our football club.
The other thing is, Greg, too, probably the final question before we go into a few tips for the preliminary final. Year as a whole, players that have been exceptional to you this year, and players that people who go and watch the game next year should be looking out for. Anyone like Brad Reeves probably sticks out to my way. How he's developed, even Matty Thompson, the way he's developed, and all. I think they're all Redland kids, which is really exciting. Anyone else that's probably come along?
I think, obviously Steve Gardner's certainly improved from where he was at the end of the year. He came from a very lesser league, just going down having a kick with his mates. And he's really put in the hard work, so he's really improved. But I know he's been on an AFL list before, but in saying that, he's just really taken himself to another level, which is fantastic. Young Blake Brewer, another Redlands boy, has really probably found this year, with not being involved in the 18s, the workload needed to play at that next level, and I think he's taken steps forward to give himself the best opportunity to really kind of start blossoming as a footballer. And obviously Brad Reeves has been fantastic in the back end of the year. He started a little bit slow, had a few little niggling injuries, but really came to the fore when we really needed some of our senior players to stand up, and he was one of the key ones. And obviously I think our best player on a week-to-week basis, I think, has been Daniel Zufa.
Yeah.
He's been tremendous for us this year.
Mm.
Well, let's move on now to the preliminary final. You're listening to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Ethan James, Craig Crowley, all with you. Greg Seaton-Lonsdale, coach of the Redlands Footy Club, is on the phone with us. The preliminary final for the NEAFL competition is tomorrow afternoon, 2:15pm at Yeronga. Southport up against Aspley. They played each other just 2 weeks ago in the first round of the semi-finals. Aspley got up 118-74 in that one. Greg, we'll ask you, mate, for just a tip in this one. You've played against both sides in recent times. Who do you like in this preliminary final? Who's going to go on and take on the Brisbane Lions in the big one?
Well, actually, I'm actually probably tipping Southport, actually. I just think they'll enjoy Yeronga. I just think if they can just fix up the ruck situation, which they got into a bit of trouble against Aspley last time. I think Weymouth, the poor fellas, virtually rucked all day, which was pretty hard work that day. It was pretty warm. I reckon if they can just fix up that, and Lee Hughes coming back in, I think.
Yep.
I just think Southport might get over the top. Not by much, though.
Craig, I'll ask you, mate, what's going to be different this time for Southport as opposed to the 40-odd point loss from last time?
Well,
look, as I said, I think they've learned with the two Aspley ruckmen. They worked over Weymouth the whole day, and by the beginning of the last quarter, mate, he looked spent. So I think they'll learn from that, and I just think the likes of Fraser Pope coming in and these kind of blokes, I think we'll add a bit of strength to the middle, I think.
yeah, the other thing is too, what's really important, Aspley have been a great story, as Darren's touched on during the course of the year, and to that first final, if they weren't going to come out with all guns a-blazing, it would be very, very, very strange, because to take that next role, to play the Lions in the second semi and have a shot at playing in the grand final is just a huge amount of drive. Whether we can catch them a little bit off guard, they had their opportunity last week to beat the Lions and go straight through. Whether that plays on their mind, I think you've got two very, very similar sides. Both teams have got good AFL experience. Probably a thing that might go with us is that we've played a lot of finals. There's been blokes who've played a lot of finals football. They don't get lost in the heat of the moment. They attack the ball, but in saying that, blokes like Cheney Stiller, Robbie Copeland, they've got some very, very talented footballers in their group. A very good young midfield, Isaac Conway, James Ives, just really, really keen. And you can't take youth away from anyone in a finals, because they've just got no inhibitions. These guys are just going to be players we're going to have to watch for. Obviously, I'm going to tip us to win, but we've got to have everyone playing to maximum ability to get us over the line. And I agree with what Greg said, is that I think Yeronga will suit us. The running on top of the ground will suit us. Probably it can be won in the middle of the ground with the rucks. But we're hoping to tough that out and give, as you said, give Dan a bit of a blow at some stage and be competitive through that. If we can do that, we're going to be more than competitive during the game. Tip from you, Darren?
Yeah, taking a look at last week's games, I mean, French for Aspley was a bit inaccurate, kicking 3-4. But, you take a look at Southport, I mean, all of that finals experience. Aspley have been the story of the past 2 seasons. There's no question about that. But I think it might still be another year or so for them before they make it to the big one. The other thing too is you're playing at Yeronga. I haven't been there since the redevelopment, but Yeronga traditionally was built on a dump. You could never, the groundskeepers there would always used to tell me, you can never ever put enough water into that ground. It just goes straight through, especially around the cricket pitch area. So one would think that you'll have pretty good conditions to play in, even if it rains. And under those circumstances, I can't go past the Sharks.
All right, we'll leave it there, guys. The grand final of the NEAFL is on Sunday, 15th of September, 2:30pm at Yeronga. The Brisbane Lions will be there. Either the Southport Sharks or Aspley will be there against them as well. Greg Seaton-Lonsdale, coach of the Redlands Footy Club, thank you very much for being with us this morning on Sports Scene.
Appreciate it, boys. Thanks very much.
No worries at all, mate. It's been a pleasure. We'll take a break here on Sports Scene. We'll come back. We'll talk through the world of the AFL, so stay with us.
101 FM.
You're listening to Saturday Sports Scene on 101 FM.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Ethan James, Craig Crowley, all here with you. Big thanks to Greg Seaton-Lonsdale, who was just on the phone with us. He is, of course, coach of the Redlands Footy Club, talking through the world of the NEAFL. Look, it's now time to move on to the world of the AFL. And before we get on to the finals, there was an announcement during the week. Melbourne Demons picked up a very crucial signing, didn't they, Craig?
It's amazing, I think he hasn't missed out in the pocket. That's one thing that's really important, and I find it strange in a way. I know they needed a profile coach, but I know the financial status of Melbourne is not real strong. So whether they're getting a bit of help from the AFL, I don't know. But look, it's he's obviously, through all the shows I've been watching, he's been very diligent in what he's through his process. He's made sure that the playing group that he has are going to buy into what he's about, and it's not about him having a long contract. It's about him having putting everything in place through coaches, developing the players, bringing players up to their best ability. So that's going to be interesting to see how they pan out. And they'll have another early draft pick. They're talking about using it as a tool to get into a trade. Giving up their second draft pick so they can allow to get an established footballer in their group. So, look, they've already got a good mindset, and no doubt the next couple of weeks through talking to their list management, they'll do things in the right way.
Craig, just on that, the deal's for 2 years, and part of the deal is Roos needs to set a succession plan in place for his replacement.
Yeah.
So basically what he did at the Swans. So I think they're going about it the right way.
Yeah, look, it's still, at the end of the day, with the coaches they have in place and whatnot, you still got to have the cattle, and that's probably the biggest thing is their list management. Yep. They did get rid of a few players that were quite significant to their group, so obviously there wasn't a real lot of harmony in the group for them players to leave. So they've just got to create a good environment for the young players. They've got to create... And look, like as I said, they've got to buy into it. They've got to see something at the end of the day. And if they don't see something at the end of the day, the harmony won't be there. Like, it's great to have a great coach, but it's not the only thing. And we've seen that before in other sports. So let's just see how their list looks at the start of the year next year, and then we can probably talk about how they'll probably be. But the other thing is probably significant, not only the Roos getting the job at Melbourne, also John Worsfold resigning, not giving it all. They were sitting there waiting to give him another 2-year contract, and he says he's lost the passion, doesn't want to be in that environment. He's been there for 12 years. I suppose that's really taxing on the mind. They've had some great times, they've had some low times, but that was probably more so a little bit out of the blue, more so than Roos getting appointed at Melbourne. Everyone speculated that that's going to happen, but Worsfold out of the blue, he's just gone, no, that'll do me, packed up the boots and went home. So yeah, that's quite interesting, and it'll be interesting to see who will take the job. They reckon they've got Peter Sumich, who is over at Freo at the moment. He's probably the contender there. So once again, it's silly season. It's all going to happen.
Speaking of silly season, we won't talk too much, but the Mad Monday stuff from earlier in the week, Craig. There's got to be a way to stop this. There's always something every year. There's always something. And I understand that the players and everybody, they want to have a good time at the end of their season, but you can't be setting dwarves on fire, surely.
No, you can't. It's ridiculous. Apparently, you can throw them against the wall, or you can throw them as far as you want, but you can't burn them. We
should point out that we don't set anybody on fire or encourage it at all.
Look, I think it probably started last year. I think it was at Canberra in that. How it blew out, and the media just the way they the Bulldogs now Canterbury. I think the media still want to be involved in all sorts of sport, regardless if they're finished. And I think they look around this looking for something now. But it is a Mad Monday. Not only that, the St Kilda, we've got the situation with the Brisbane Lions, a high-profile Brisbane Lions player that threw a person out of a wheelchair to take their taxi.
The accusations.
That's right. So at the end of the day, look. You've got to remember, in the AFL environment, these guys to succeed have got to be at their optimum ability all year. They've got to be training hard. They go without for long periods of time in the way of not being able to celebrate things, probably spending a lot of time with family. This is their one day they can do, but that doesn't excuse anyone from what they've done. It's not acceptable. And St Kilda have already been up and had an advertisement on television now saying that's not St Kilda. This is what we're about. Jump on board, because they can lose a lot by it.
They put out an ad on TV
already.
Yeah.
have they been explicit in saying St Kilda's not about setting dwarves on?
Yep, they pretty much came down to it, and they said that, and you had Nick Rewell at the front of it saying this is not acceptable on what we're about. No, I don't think they used the actual dwarf on fire situation, but they said, well, that's not about us as a club and what we're about, and they've addressed it pretty much straight away, but it's still not acceptable.
No. Yeah, and the worst thing is that's not even the weirdest footy story this week. We will get to the Gold Coast Rugby League in the second hour of the show. Anyone who's been following that, I know I certainly have. Anyway, let's get to the footy. Let's talk about the Hawthorn Hawks beating the Sydney Swans last night. 54 points. They beat them by 105 to 51. Scores level at half time, but they kicked seven of the last 9 goals. Hawthorn to power on to a big win. Craig, who's going to stop Hawthorn? They've been so good this year. Is anyone going to be able to stop them in the preliminary and eventual grand finals, assuming they get there?
Yeah, well, they're probably now in a situation, the Swans and Hawthorn, where they've got I think the Swans had Goods, a few others out. Goods, obviously, the main person you look at, but Hawthorn having players out too. So it just probably shows you how far down they can bat, and that's really important on how strong the blokes are who are going to come up and fill places. And look, they didn't even look like they missed Lance Franklin. They've still got leg speed. They've still got, players who can get the ball, the hard ball. They get it out. They're quick with their hands. They're well drilled. And as I said earlier, you can't afford to have a person like Luke Hodge be free in the back half who can just distribute the ball as well as he does left and right foot. The amount of targets he hit on his non-preferred side was just amazing. Hale, Roughhead, it just goes on. They've got a potent attack, and they've just got blokes that really want to play for each other. Like I thought at the start of the game when Sydney just come at them, Kurt kicked 2 goals in the first quarter. I thought, geez, this is going to be interesting now. But you look around and they're still level at half time, and that was their opportunity, and they didn't take their opportunity. In Hawthorn, look, they're scary at the moment. I don't think there's any side near them at the moment.
Darren, what about you, mate? Where does this leave Sydney in your opinion?
Sydney are in trouble. They've lost their balance. It hasn't helped not having Goods in the side, but they went top heavy up front last night, and it still it worked fine till half time. But when you got a side like Hawthorn who can do that without Buddy, and Craig, I know you'd love seeing this stat: 11 different goal kickers for Hawthorn. And you don't even have your biggest and best player playing in the team, and yet you still manage to get 11 goal kickers. Hawthorn at the moment, with that performance last night, went from being red-hot favourites to absolute raging unbackables, I reckon, after last night, even with Geelong still in the race.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Geelong now. Their game this afternoon, 2:20 p.m. at Simmons Stadium, up against the Freo Dockers. Craig, how do you see it going?
I reckon this will be a lot closer than what a lot of people think. If anyone can strangle a side, it's Freo, and we've spoken about that regularly on the show. Geelong are in form. That's the main thing. They've got the home final, but having that in mind, that just sets enough fire to Freo. Like the last interview with Ross Lyons, he goes, "Oh well, it's all been set up. It's all been done. Not set up. That's not a right word, but it's all been done now. You can't do anything about it. We'll go and play them on where we have to play them. We can't do anything about it, and that's the situation. And they have an attitude like that. Whether McFarlane plays is going to be significant to their group. They've taken him down there as an emergency, but it seems strange to take him if they're not going to play him. So they've got the players to do it. The youth of Geelong, which we've spoken about, is it going to be good for them? Is it going to be bad for them? But now they're all getting stronger. You're all getting more games under their belt. It's going to be significant, I reckon, at the end of the day, because now they're ready to go. I think when you do play finals and you're on a ground that you're not familiar with, it can actually make you feel, geez, as a final, you get a bit of the yips and because they're at home, they're in familiar area. It's going to be a lot easier on the kids or the younger guys, put it that way. They're not kids anymore, but the younger guys in their group. And by feeling that familiar area, the crowd being pretty much on their side, they'll feel as though, this is, even though it's not a home and away game, it'll feel like that to them, that they'll get the same response. And with that in mind, even though Freo will really dish it up to them, they'll really strangle them, I think their big guns and their finals experience, which we spoke about at NEFL level with Southport, it holds a lot of clout. And the guys have gone through this journey many times, and they'll know what to do in a hot situation. And I just reckon Geelong might be just too good.
Darren, what's your tip for that one?
Yeah, I'm looking at the moment. Geelong have won 13 out of the last 14 against Freo there at Kardinia Park. Geelong and Freo both get guns back in Paul Chapman and Matthew Pavlich. Both have played limited football this year, but really Chapman's a proven performer. He's playing for his football life now. He's playing for a contract for next year. He wants to stay there, and he said that during the week. Matthew Pavlich, we know how good he is if he's fit, but really too much whinging by Freo during the week about the venue, and Geelong just getting about their business. Geelong will win.
Tonight, 7:45 p.m, elimination final, 6th plays 7th. Collingwood up against the Port Power. Craig Crowley, what do you think?
Well, I think most of us had Collingwood at the top of the tree at the start of the season. Look,
I have West Coast.
and the irony of it, I think I had Port Melbourne at the bottom.
I did too. You and me both.
Look, at the end of the day, Port have got nothing to lose. Whether that's going to hold in good stead, I don't know. Collingwood have got the names, the players that can win this game and should win this game. But you never, ever take out the possibility of the unexpected, which Port have really, really done. They've got to go into this game as huge underdogs, and that's going to sit well with them. They're going to go in and go, well, what have we got to lose? I think if we look in the paper tomorrow and we see, Port Adelaide, they went out, no one would be terribly surprised. And they would probably think, well, we've had a great year. Whether they want to take that on board and accept that, that's up to themselves, and that's up to their coaching group and playing group. But that wouldn't be a surprise. Whereas if Port goes through, I think a lot of people go, geez, I didn't expect that. So that's going to be the feel. If Collingwood win, yeah, they should have won, and I think they should and will win.
Darren?
Yeah, I tipped the upset last week with North over Collingwood, but I don't think I'm going to be quite as brave this week. Port Adelaide have probably been the football on-field story of 2013. They've had a great run, but I think they will be eliminated in elimination final number 2 tonight.
And the other elimination final, of course, the Richmond Tigers up against Carlton. That is Sunday afternoon, 3:20 p.m. at the MCG. Tell us all about it, Darren.
Okay, 3 words. 3 words. No tickets available. This match will be 90,000 plus. It will be an absolute corker. Please, MCC members, do the right thing and turn up, and let's fill this magnificent bowl. I was at the last corresponding game that these guys played in the final in 2001. It was 90,000 people at the G. Richmond Carlton. Unfortunately, Richmond lost by 10 goals the following week to Brisbane in the prelim. But the feeling between these two teams, and I can tell you from first-hand experience in a final, there is nothing like it. And I've done Origins and all sorts of sport. These guys will go hammer and tongs at one another. I'm not going to underestimate Michael Malthouse ever again after his performance in the last half of this season with Carlton. But Richmond are absolutely primed and ready to go. There are reports down in Melbourne that Richmond fans on the street are just itching like drug addicts. You know, they've got that shaky about them because it's finals time for the first time in 12 years. They've got a damn good side. They go in strong. Jack Riewoldt looks like he will be playing. So hopefully he will be able to take marks freely, unlike Hawkins has been for Geelong. And I think Richmond, there's just too much at stake, too much going for them, and too much belief in themselves not to be playing in the second week of finals.
Yes, and I think, Darren, probably one of the stories out of the whole final is Chris Newman playing his first final. He's been at the club the entirety of that time. I don't know if he played in that final 12 years ago, but he's been in there probably very close to that. So he's gone out with a lot. There was a lot of talk that he might not play because of injury, but he's just fought back and he's really, really excited, no doubt, about playing in it. And it's great to see. And you'll have a lot of players feeling for him and probably wanting to play for him. Look, I think if the football gods are shining down, and I hope they are, I think you'll find Richmond will win, and basically because I suppose to a certain extent Carlton have snuck in by default, and we can't take that away from Carlton. They're in the side, they're in the finals, and it doesn't matter what's happened. But for the amount of times that Richmond have finished ninth and been knocking on the door, they get their opportunity. I hope they grasp it. I hope they take it for whatever it's worth. Just to hear that song at the end of the day, there's no better theme song at the end of the game than listening to the Richmond when they scream out the yellow and black.
There's 2 points I should make too with this. One, just on the stats, Chris Newman, 232 games before he plays his first final tomorrow. So that is, I think, 5th longest in VFL AFL history. And Brett Deletio, one of the few number 1 draft picks which has actually worked down through the years, 194 senior games since debut, will also play his first final in VFL AFL history. But the point I do want to make, Craig, is even if they don't get past the first week, and I'm not going to jinx them, but even if they don't, the big story for Richmond out of this in the last decade is they have finished 5th for the year in the premiership race, and they haven't even looked like doing that since back in 2001. So the something to smile about for Tigers fans for the next few weeks, and you can bet they are sitting in the boardroom at the AFL crossing their fingers hoping that Richmond get through, because when Richmond get through, that means a lot more money coming through the turnstiles.
All right, the semi-finals are certainly here. It's exciting time for everybody. We're going to take a break here on SportzScene. We come back, we'll talk through the US Open. Stay with us.
Life. Life is for living. So live it. Life. Life is for giving. So give it. Giving blood is cool. Needing it isn't. Red Cross. Give a little. Life is for living. Life is for giving. Help save lives. Please give blood.
You didn't know, did you? To produce pork, ham and bacon products, most mother pigs endure lives of misery in factory farms. Please, don't buy into cruelty. Help Animals Australia end this abuse forever. Call 1300-HELP-THEM or visit animalsaustralia.org for a free information pack.
Remember When with Richard Davey, bringing you golden musical memories from the 1920s to the late 50s, every Sunday from 1 p.m. on 101 FM. We play the biggest hits and the greatest memories. Logan City's 101 FM. This is Saturday Sports Scene on 101 FM.
Welcome back to SportzScene here on 101 FM. 5 minutes to 9, your next fresh news update coming up at the top of the hour. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Craig Crowley, Ethan James, all here with you. It's sometimes hard to remember there's other things happening in the middle of the footy final season because there's so much to talk about with that. But rather big tennis tournament on at the moment, the US Open, Ethan, and what a run Leighton Hewitt made in the US Open in the last week and a bit. It was incredible. It went all the way to the 4th round and finally went down in a 5-setter.
Yeah, something quite remarkable. Last week on the show, Darren and I made the call that I wasn't confident in Hewitt getting over Del Potro. Yeah, you maybe eat my words there. But honestly, Hewitt, people are saying he's turning back the clock, but he's almost timeless the way that he just keeps plugging away. And some of the tennis he was playing, some of the passing shots he was pulling off against Del Potro were just magic. And yeah, he likes the 5-setter. Unfortunately, I went down to Mikel Houston in the 4th round. It was another amazing run.
He had his chances too, didn't he?
Yeah. Oh, he did.
During the course, he had a break. It was 4-1 in the 4th?
4-1 in the 4th, and I think he was 5-2 even in the 5th, before losing the last, I think, 5 games to go down 7-5. Yeah.
And you'd think that it would be his strength, wouldn't you, that through his experience, he's the amount of big games he's played at 4-1, you would nearly put the cue in the rack, wouldn't you, and gone, he's home here. But, you got to give kudos to the opposition, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, look, Mats Verlander backed up what I've been saying for a long time about him during the week. He said, come Grand Slam time, doesn't matter where Leighton is, where he's been, he is one of the top 20 players in the world. And I don't think there's been any doubt about that. And, I mean, look, Leighton, and I think it might be a fun exercise, in a few weeks or few months' time, when we actually have time on the show at some stage, to actually look at his contribution to Australian tennis. I mean, my personal belief, and I cop a bit of flack over this, but I believe he is the best player that we've ever had since Laver. And when you look at his stats, you look at his record, it's hard to argue. But when you actually look at the way he plays the game, what he's brought to the sport, and the number of kids that probably took up the sport, for nothing else other than to be able to turn their hat backwards and say, come on. He has had an enormous impact on the sport. His time during the North American hardcourt season is always exciting because this is the best time of the year that he plays. And when he gets to the US Open, he's capable of doing stuff. That's why I felt so strongly about him with Del Potro last week. But, if he's fit, every player in the world who knows anything about their game fears him. And they should, because he's capable of beating anyone in the world on his day.
As he showed by beating world number 6 Juan Martín del Potro. What a win that was for him. One of the best wins he's had in a long, long time. It's the first top 10 win over a top 10 player that he'd had since he beat Sampras in the 2001 final, which I thought was a pretty cool stat there. But yeah, it was an amazing win and a great run, and it made a great story for the tournament. Another I guess, story from the tournament, Roger Federer going out fairly early. The earliest he's been out of the US Open in a long, long time. He went down in straight sets there in the 4th round. Ethan, Father Time doesn't wait for anybody, I suppose. As much as we all love the Fed, he's not going to be the top guy all the time anymore.
No, he's not. He's not playing as many tournaments as he used to. I think he admitted himself that his consistency is not there, the way he likes it. But the matter, just the way in which he lost. I mean, he went down in straight sets to Tommy Robredo, and Robredo's a good player, but he's towards the back end of his career himself. And we saw in the round afterwards, Nadal absolutely just dismantled Robredo in the match afterwards. So, yeah, strange one there. Fed, for Fed, what was your take on it all, Darren?
Look, I think give it a year or so and then a nicely timed phone call to his good friend and genuinely good friend, Leighton Hewitt, just to find out the balance in life and how to handle the twilight of your career. I mean, you take a look at Federer. He is going to be one of those people it's going to be hard to make the call on when he does get near the end of retirement, whether he'll go out with a whimper, falling his way down the rankings points, or whether he really will do these wonderful things every once in a while like Leighton's doing. I'm tipping the latter. I think he loves the sport too much to leave it early. And, I think... look out, the Olympics are still to come, but I think after the Olympics we might have seen the end of Roger in normal tennis, and I don't know if he's the sort of player who'll play Masters.
And it'll be a sad day to see the end of Roger Federer because we all love him. What a great champion he has been. We've got to take a break here on Sports. We're going to go to the news. When we come back in the second hour, plenty of rugby league to talk. Local level, QRL, NRL, it's all happening. Stay with us here on Sports Scene. We'll be right back after the news.
Your station, 101 FM, with Saturday Sports Scene.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. 6 minutes past 9, taking you through into the second hour of the show. And we got plenty to talk about here in the second hour of the show as well. Kevin Braysher here with you, along with Darren Madigan, Craig Crowley, Ethan James. Let's get to the world of rugby league now. We'll start on the local scene. We'll get this one out of the way first of all. I'm sure plenty of people have read or seen a little bit about this during the week. I was actually at the game where it happened, so I do know how it all went down. But yes, Anthony Watts, former Cowboy, former Rooster in the NRL, good player in those days too. He could play. Playing back in the Bycroft Cup now on the Gold Coast. It was an incident in that game where he was accused of biting an opponent's penis during that game. The investigation into that has been ongoing by the QRL and by the Gold Coast Rugby League, I should say. He has been invited to attend a judiciary hearing next Tuesday where he could possibly face contrary conduct charges. He will miss this weekend's grand final between Tugun and Southport Tigers. He plays for the Tugun Seahawks. He will miss that on an unrelated sort of related striking charge, but it wasn't for that other thing. So, the accusation is there. The hearing will be next week, and we'll know more about it next week after we've had that hearing. But at this stage, could possibly face a contrary conduct charge on that accusation. So that was a story that got a lot of traction around a lot of networks around the country. It was on a lot of TV shows. It was in newspapers and things like that. It's a big story, and that's pretty much the most I could say about it at the time. I was there, but I was too far away to be able to see what did or did not happen anyway, because it happened in the in-goal area and I was sitting on the far 30-metre line. So, that's basically the whole story on that one for now. We'll know more about it next week, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know these guys like to load up on their protein, but geez, it's just taking it, taking it too far. But, wow, it's very unsavoury. It's a pity it's gone down the way it has, hasn't it? I mean, really. I mean, it's a story that has probably overtaken what is a great league and a really good competition.
Absolutely, and a great rivalry between two clubs, Bullemble and Tugun. Darren, I know you've been to plenty of the games between the two sides. There's no love lost between them, and it's always a fiery encounter, and that was no different on Sunday afternoon. But we'll leave that one there. Of course, the grand final for the Bycroft Cup is tomorrow. Southport Tigers, the minor premiers, taking on the Tugun Seahawks. Tugun have lost the last two grand finals, both of them in Golden Point extra time, so there will be some scars for them there, but they're trying to make it third time lucky. Tugun Seahawks up against the Southport Tigers down at Pizzey Park, 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. I'll be there, plenty of other people will be there as well. It'll be a great afternoon of footy, I am sure. But we'll leave that one there for now. Let's move on to the Intrust Super Cup, and the Intrust Super Cup had their gala dinner awards night during the week, Ethan, and a big night for the East Tigers, who of course came home. Cody Walker being named Courier Mail medalist for winner of the year. Best and fairest is the words I'm looking for.
Got it. Yeah, Cody Walker.
Previous story.
That's it. Yeah, so yeah, I will leave the previous story well alone. But yeah, sensational. It was a sensational effort from Cody Walker to win the award. And the way it went, we were both there, Kev. The way the voting went was quite remarkable. He was up against essentially tit for tat with Matt Pittman from the South Logan Magpies all the way through, and he polled 3 votes in the final round against South Logan. Cody did to win the award, which was something quite remarkable. So, but just on Cody's season in general, he did his shoulder in the preseason. Didn't play his first match until round 9. Jesus. So he gave the competition a fair start in that regard, and even then, like the first, I think 2 or 3 matches, he came off the bench. So he didn't start polling any votes until about midway through the season. So essentially he's won the award basically on half a season of footy. And aside from that, he also finished top point scorer in the Intrust Super Cup. So an absolutely stellar season from Cody Walker. So
how old?
Sorry?
How old is he?
23, turning 24 this year.
Chance anywhere, or has he already been somewhere?
He was in the Gold Coast Titans system. He played under 20s for them before, and then I think he played in New South Wales a bit before he joined with Easts. He's been there. This is his second year, I think, with the Tigers now. But there's a bit of NRL interest. I think he's had offers from a few clubs around the place. But yeah, I think he's definitely deserves an NRL contract somewhere, because his form over the past 2 seasons has just been amazing.
Yeah, it's been incredible, and there's no coincidence that East were a little up and down in that first half of the season, whereas the second half of the season they've really stormed home. It's no coincidence. It's been when he's been out, he's fit and firing, playing his best football. He's had a terrific season. But we've got to give credit to Matty Pittman from the South Logan Magpies for a front rower to be up there at the end of year voting like that is just unheard of, and it's just a testament to what a terrific performer he is for that club.
Yeah, usually with these sorts of awards, it goes to the sort of flashier players in the back.
Goes to the halfback or the fullback, pretty much.
You sort of get the attention of who get the attention and score the tries. But yeah, for Matt Pittman, as you said, to finish where he has finished, just shows the standout player. And I know Cody gave him a big wrap up on stage the other night too.
Absolutely, and you got to wonder. He had a couple of games in the back end of the season where he got suspended, and take out those suspensions, maybe he polls a vote here or there, maybe he ends up with the Courier Mail medal. But it wasn't to be for Matty Pittman from the South Logan Magpies. Cody Walker, a deserving winner of the Courier Mail medal for best and fairest in the Intrust Super Cup. Some of the other awards from the night: the 4X People's Choice Award went to Hezron Merger from the Northern Pride. We got the Mental League Coach of the Year, Jason Demetria, also from the Northern Pride. Northern Pride, of course, finishing at the top of the ladder as minor premiers. Nick Solani from Redcliffe Dolphins was Representative Player of the Year, and plenty of other awards there as well. The Fox Cup, the Fox Colts, plenty of stuff like that. So it was a great night down there. Spotless Club Championship as well, 2013 goes to the East Tigers. It was a great night down there on Wednesday night. Plenty of big names: Dave Smith, Toddy Greenberg, Mel Meninga. They were all there. So Jenny Miles was there too. It was a good night.
We were there, Kev. Big names. No, not quite, anyway.
Kevin and Ethan from SportzScene. We were there on one of the tables too. It was good fun. It was a good night, and congratulations again to Cody Walker, deserved winner. All right, let's talk through the semi-finals now. The qualifying final, first of all, the Mackay Cutters up against the East Tigers up there at Virgin Australia Stadium, 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Ethan, I know you're heading up with the East Tigers team. There's going to be a lot of quality players on display in this game. How's it going to go up there tomorrow afternoon?
It's going to be an absolute cracker. Looking through the two team lists, they've got about 8 or so players in each side who have played NRL. And looking at the Mackay side, they've got Joel Clinton, who of course
International
for the Kangaroos from International. They've also got guys like Khalifa Fifo Lower, Michael Morgan, Jason Tamalolo, Anthony Mitchell, So looking through both, the sides of both teams, it's going to be an exceptionally high standard of footy. They're split at one apiece this year. They played twice. Mackay got East up there at Mackay, and then East got the Cutters down here at Langlands. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to go, but it's going to be a fantastic match.
And you talked about NRL players. You didn't mention the East Tigers. We've got one NRL player. Look, we have to ask you about it. Gareth Widdop lining up at number 6. Hasn't played a game for East Tigers all year. How is it working? What's going on?
Well, last week, East named Gareth Widdop in the Fogs Cup, which is the reserve grade below Intra-Super Cup level. They named him on the team sheet. He didn't play in the match, but because he was named on the team list, he's therefore eligible to play for the Tigers in the Intra-Super Cup match this weekend.
That's the oldest trick in the book.
I was going to say, Jared, it's a very old school sounding kind of trick, isn't it?
Not that I ever did that when I was managing a football team.
And it is, of course, within the rules. Like the East Tigers haven't broken any eligibility rules or selection rules there. I guess people can have their own opinions as to whether it's in the spirit of the game or potentially a bit of gamesmanship there at play, but I'll leave the opinions to other people.
Yeah. All right. Well, what about Gareth Widdop? He'll only play the one game for East Tigers. Of course, he's getting match fitness back to play with the Melbourne Storm in their semi-final next week. Is it an advantage or a disadvantage? What's the go here with Gareth Widdop lining up at 5'8"? To
be honest, it's probably a bit of both. Like a player of his quality, he's obviously played for England at an international level.
He's a fantastic player.
He's a sensational player. To have a player of his calibre playing in a finals match is a big plus in that regard, but by the same token, he's only going to have 2 training sessions with the team beforehand. And in terms of the blokes who have been there all season, playing in the halves and playing in the team, who have gotten these, to this point, to 3rd position on the ladder and a qualifying final, it's potentially a bit of a, maybe not a slap in the face, but in terms of somebody missing out, I feel sorry for the bloke who has been left out of the side this week. But I think we'll see. We've seen blokes from Melbourne come up and down with East through the season, and the team has still really galvanised behind them and played good footy. So I don't think it'll be too much of a disruption, and I think East's are good enough to adapt to it.
Yeah, and some of the other NRL players on display on the East Tigers side, Junior Sau, Mahe Whenua, so we talked about them a couple of times on the show, how good they've been for the Tigers this year. Like Lagi Setu coming off the bench. Mitch Garber, has he played some NRL this year, mate?
Yeah, he made his NRL debut. Middle of the year during the Origin period. I think he's played about 3 or 4 matches off the bench for them.
He's a guy to keep an eye on in the front row there for East Tigers. He's a massive guy and just makes a huge impact. So it's going to be a cracking game of football. No disrespect to the other game, but I wish this game was the one being televised because I think it's going to be an absolute beauty up there at Mackay. It's hard to split the two. I think East probably in the better form at the moment, but Mackay at home are going to be very, very hard to beat. It's going to be a great game of football. The elimination semi-final this week will be Wynnum Manly Seagulls up against the Ipswich Jets over there at Cougarai Oval. That'll be tomorrow afternoon, live on Channel 9, 2 p.m. So check it out. It'll be a great game of footy too. Wynnum Manly taking on Ipswich. Wynnum Manly finishing 4th, going for their 4th straight premiership, or 3rd straight premiership, I should say.
3rd straight, yeah.
3rd straight, and up against the Ipswich Jets there. It'll be a cracking game. Corey Norman lining up at fullback for Wynnum Manly. A bit of NRL experience there, mate. Who do you like in this game?
I'm favouring Wynnum. Home ground advantage there at Cougarai. They'll have a massive local support base behind them. They're in good form too. I think their form's slightly better than that of the Jets. They had to win last week too against the Pride up there in Cairns, Wynnum, to qualify for the final. So that in itself is a monumental effort for them. I mean, not many teams go up there and win, and to do it under that sort of pressure, I think sets them in really good stead for this one. Ipswich, of course, beat Burleigh,
yes, they did.
Yeah, but I just like the look of the Wynnum side. I think they've sort of got too much strike. Ipswich are very gritty sort of footy side, but when you look at who Wynnum have got there, Corey Norman at fullback, and of course Jake Granville at hooker, who's so quick and speedy out of dummy half. I think they'll have a few too many points in them.
I agree, and there's a fair bit of experience in that side as well from past years in their past premiership sides. The Wynnum Manly Seagulls will be my tip in that one, but no doubt it'll be a cracking game of football. That is the elimination semi-finals. Northern Pride get the weekend off, and they await the winner of the Mackay Cutters East Tigers game next weekend. So, they well deserved that week off because they've had a terrific season, the Northern Pride. It's an exciting time of the year in the Intrust Super Cup. You've got to love the semi-final football. We'll take the break here on SportzScene. We'll come back. We'll talk some NRL. Stay with us.
Life is for living. So live it. Life. Life is for giving, so give it. Giving blood is cool. Needing it isn't. Red Cross. Give a little. Life is for living. Life is for giving. Help save lives. Please give blood.
If you have a keen interest in radio with current or past technical skills, 101 FM would like to talk to you about becoming part of our technical team. This voluntary position would suit someone who may have a background in the telecommunications industry and who would like to continue their skills and learn new ones. A keen and enthusiastic interest in technology and radio would be necessary. If this interests you, please forward your resume to 101 FM's technical manager at tech@101fm.asn.au or call 3808 8101 for further information.
Good morning, Romeo's Lonely Hearts Club. Good morning, Romeo's. Looking to be lucky in love?
Hi, my name's Ralph, and I'm looking for love and companionship.
Oh, well, I'm sure we can help you, Ralph. Tell me a bit about yourself. Are you fit, healthy?
Oh, yes, I run every day.
Ooh.
And I'm the strong, silent, faithful type.
Oh, you sound wonderful, Ralph.
Oh, and I'm desexed,
Ooh.
vaccinated, and temperament tested.
Oh, lovely.
Right now, the perfect lifelong companion could be waiting for you and your family at the RSPCA. They're happy, healthy, and looking for love.
Oh, and I love kids too.
Wanted, dead, or alive. Your station sponsor, AAA Car Body Removals, will pay top dollar for all cars, trucks, and four-wheel drives, and they'll come and pick up free. Phone Joe on 0411 346 446.
We play the biggest hits and the greatest memories. Logan City's 101 FM.
Saturday Sports Scene on 101 FM.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. 20 minutes past 9, your next fresh news update. Coming up at the top of the hour, Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Craig Crowley, Ethan James, all here with you. It's now time to talk about the world of NRL. We will start on good old Blake Ferguson. We skipped over it a little bit last week. We didn't have a lot of time to talk about him, but he has finally been sacked by the Canberra Raiders after he failed to front the board this week at the meeting they had to discuss his erratic behaviour. He didn't even turn up to that, which isn't really a surprise. He's been AWOL for a couple of weeks now after what's been a very dramatic season for him. This is what Don Ferner had to say about it earlier in the week.
We worked tirelessly with Blake. We knew he had some off-field issues, and we had worked very hard with him. We'd had a plan in place. Towards the end of last year, we went through another plan with the NRL and their integrity unit in terms of counselling and support, and in the end it just became untenable, and we had to take that decision and move on. He required a lot of time and effort. We put that into him, and we just couldn't do any more. You know, we've just we'll move ahead with this weekend's game, and then some other recruiting in the off season, and then that will be up to the NRL. They determine registrations and deregistrations.
Yes, Don Ferner there speaking at the press conference announcing that Blake Ferguson had been sacked, thanks to Fox Sports for that audio. He also went on to say that the club has not asked the NRL to deregister him, and it's not their place to make that call, but there's a lot of people calling for it to happen. We were talking about it just before. He's done a lot of silly things this year, and basically with his contract, he's just decided he doesn't want to be there, and he's just going to disappear until they sack him. It's not a great look at all for the game that he can just get out of his contract by not being there at all. But I feel that he's still got that indecent assault charge hanging over his head that we'll see. More of that will come over the summertime. I think if the results of that go against him and he's found guilty of that, I think that the NRL could very well deregister him. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Kev, one thing I reckon is really significant, and I've been involved, and what Don Ferner said in there, is that I've been involved in a football side where I had to coach, and all of these players need attention. They do, for one reason or another. If you devote too much time to one particular person because of their potential or their ability or whatever the case may be, all of a sudden someone has to miss out. And it's not fair on the rest of the group. Now, whether this could be a younger player in the group that really needs it, a developing player, or just someone who's got their own personal issues. And it just seems to me that Blake Ferguson is just worried about himself, and he's just taken everything of the coach. and how much this played on him before he got sacked. Yeah. That was really important. They generate so much time. It isn't about, as we know, we play a team sport. Everyone's entitled to their own slice of the coach or any of the coaches, but when someone takes too much of it and the club suffers for it, and I think realistically Canberra have suffered for it, it becomes too taxing on the coach. He can't develop his form. Who's to know whether that was the undoing of him at the time? But I just think they've done the right thing. They've let him go because it just becomes just too time consuming, and I think eliminate that, and I think the club will go on.
As Don Furner said, they did everything they could to keep him for a long time, and there was talk. The scuttlebutt is that Dave Furner, former coach of the Raiders, was a big supporter of Blake Ferguson, and that was part of the player revolt. The players didn't want him there anymore, and they were still trying to support him. So I think they had no choice. They had to sack him. Darren?
Kevin, what was with the press conference with Anthony Mundine? That was one of the strangest things I've ever seen.
Agreed.
I mean, that was just astonishing, especially given what he had hanging over his head just with the club alone. And you sit there and a question gets asked, and it's like Mundine steps in and goes, no, he won't be talking today. I'm like, well, what the hell's he doing sitting there?
That was my question. What was the point of even having him there? I don't have any answers for you on that press conference, Darren.
I don't think anyone does either.
No one knows what was going on there.
Bizarre.
It was bizarre.
It was genuinely one of the strangest things I've seen, but it just made him look even worse. And that was, I don't know who's advising him, who his manager. Oh, I know who his manager is, but anyone who advises someone to sit at a press conference, especially with Anthony Mundine in that situation, and just be silent, especially when questions are thrown, it makes no sense. I don't know what strategy that is.
I don't know. I don't think anyone, as we say, I don't think anyone really knows or understands what was going on there at that press conference. It was weird. But it's been a wretched end of the season for the Raiders, isn't it? Like, they lose Shandor Earl a couple of weeks ago, of course, to a starter. Like, Ferguson disappears and it's now been sacked. Dave Furner, the coach, has been sacked, and there's talk that Anthony Milford could be out the door. You really got to feel for the Raiders at the moment, because they got a lot of promise in that squad, and I hope they find the right balance and the right coach for it, because they got a lot of talented players there, and I hope they can have a much better season next year. Anyway, let's move on to the rest of the round now. We'll talk the results first of all. Last night, the Roosters clinched the minor premiership 24-12 over the Rabbitohs. A good win for them. They're going to be a real force in the finals this year. Gee, Sonny Bill's just been... he's talking about buy of the season. In terms of value, maybe not the money they're paying him, but absolutely, he has delivered in spades this season. He's been fantastic, as have guys like James Maloney and Michael Jennings as well for the Roosters. They've done extremely well. But let's talk about the Broncos for a minute now. The Broncos 16-11 over the Bulldogs on Thursday night. The Broncos sitting in 11th at the moment. It'll be the lowest finish in the Broncos' history there. A lot of doom and gloom and a lot of the way people have reported the way the season's gone, Ethan. But can you see a little bit of light at the end of this tunnel for the Broncos?
Depends on how long the tunnel is, Kev. I'm not sure where they're going for next season. I mean, when you look at the players that are going to be leaving, they're losing Norman, Prince is retiring, Wallace is going. So that's three blokes there who are all halves, and they're picking up Ben Barber, and at the moment that's about it. So they're going to have to find someone to partner Ben Hunt in the halves, and to have a young bloke of Hunt's age, steering the ship around without an experienced halves partner is a real sort of oversight in recruitment, really, to leave him stranded at this point. There's pressure on Griffin as well as coach. There's been a host of former players like Tallis and Wally Lewis coming out and saying some pretty sort of negative things about the club and the direction.
Do you think?
It's hard to be up all the time.
I think a lot of what Gordon Tallis said was spot on at the club. Like, the only players they recruited for this season were Scott Prince and David Stagg, and both of them sort of fell into their lap. Their recruitment over the last 4 to 5 years, the last time they had a big signing was Israel Folau in 2009, really. They brought back Petro for 1 year at the end of his career, but aside from that, it hasn't been doing. They've let go of a lot of really talented players over the time and not really recruited people. So I think questioning the recruitment methods of that club is very strange to me. And another thing he said, guys, Cooper Cronk, Daly Cherry Evans, Jonathan Thurston have all come off contract in the last few years, and they haven't made a play for them. The best halves in the competition, all Queenslanders would be Queensland heroes, would be loved by the club. They didn't even go after them. It's strange, and I would question that. And they would have plenty of money to play with under the salary cap. So I'll back 40.
Yeah, so would I. And it leaves them in a precarious sort of spot next year, as we said, because they've got Hunt there in the halves as a young bloke, but who else is there with him?
Well, let's talk the positive side of that. Hunt has been very good since putting the number 7 jersey. How good has Corey Oates been since he's come into the side over the last couple of months of football? And I think the Broncos have really played a lot better at the back end of this season. I don't think it's all doom and gloom, but I think you're right. They need to find a halves partner for Ben Hunt. They need to find him quick.
And the thing about Oates as well, he's not a winger. He's not a winger. Stretch of the imagination. They've thrown him in on the wing because they've, a bit of an injury crisis there in the backs. He's a second row essentially, but yeah, he looks like a willing customer. He's a big sort of strong lad, and it'd be good to see him in the second row, hitting holes off Hunt and all that sort of stuff. So
he's a great talent, and he's been a real shining light for the Broncos. But I think we'll have to wait and see what happens in the off season in terms of recruitment and the rest of it. But I don't think it's all doom and gloom. If the worst season they've ever had is 11th, it's not so bad.
That's it. But Broncos fans are a spoiled bunch. We're a spoiled bunch. But just on the recruitment, you'd have to think they've got a bit of an ace up their sleeve, or someone who they're fairly close to securing for next season, because if they don't, they're in a bit of a predicament.
Yeah, I've been saying that for a couple of years, mate. See what happens. Let's go through some tips for the rest of the final round of the NRL competition. The Dragons up against the Warriors. That's at Wynn Stadium tonight, mate. How do you see that going?
Both teams out of finals contention.
Warriors can leapfrog in if there's other results.
If there's other results, so they've got a bit to play for.
Mathematically, they can.
Mathematically, in that case, I'm going to tip the Warriors. As you can see, I'm paying very close attention to the NRL.
The Warriors need the win, but they need the Knights and the Cowboys to lose. Right. Melbourne Storm taking on the Gold Coast Titans at Amy Park. The Titans, with that great upset last week, beating the Roosters. Can they make it 2 big upsets in a row? They need this win again in the same position as the Warriors, essentially. They're sitting in 9th. They need this win to keep their season alive. Can they do it?
Yeah, well, I don't think anyone thought they'd get over the Roosters last week. Probably a tougher challenge against the Storm. We have that really sort of strong structure that's fairly impenetrable.
Them coming off a loss as well, Melbourne, they'll bounce back.
Yeah, that's true. They will bounce back down there at Amy. They'll want to make a statement heading into the finals. It's hard to look past Melbourne.
The Cowboys taking on the West Tigers up at 1300 Smile Stadium tonight, 7:30. The Cowboys can secure their place in the finals with a win. And who would have thought? Just over a couple. There was a game they lost to the Broncos up at Suncorp Stadium. Everyone said their season is over. It's done. They sacked Neil Henry a couple of days later. They have not lost a game since. They've won 5 in a row. They're gunning for 6. I think they will definitely beat the West Tigers, and they will finish inside the top 8. Yeah. And then they'll probably play the Bulldogs or the Sharks in the first week of the semis. I think they beat that team. They beat the Sharks comfortably last week. Very, very good down in Sydney. They are on an absolute charge, the Cowboys.
Yeah, they're on a massive roll. And as you said, it's come out of nowhere, really, considering their form. And they've only really put it together in about 5 or 6 games, and to qualify for the finals off that, it's sort of pretty remarkable. But yeah, as you said, I'd fancy their chances against either of those sides, but once again, they can't be looking too far ahead, because the West Tigers have got a fair bit of footy in them. They've got a young side, but they've got plenty of points, I think, in their arsenal as well. So,
how would the Cowboys be feeling now with Neil Henry in the situation there? What question? Can they do a somersault and sort of re-employ him, or they're probably too big for that? Because obviously something's happened within their group, whether it's the pressures off Neil Henry, like, okay, I've gone, let's just throw caution to the wind and, play a role, style of football that's going to get us there, and it's worked, whatever the case may be, because it's going to do what's actually happened, as we spoke before off here. It's done great for his CV, so if he was ever in doubt of ever getting a job before that, he's going to get one now. So, and is that going to be detrimental to the Cowboys? I don't know.
I think that's a question for a psychologist and why it's such a huge turnaround, because the roster is the same essentially. It's just all come together in the last few weeks. The way I know you and I both thought it would from the start this season with the roster that they've got. They got the big guys up front going forward. Jonathan Thurston has been in tremendous form. Yeah, they're just they're a good side. They're a real good side,
guys. It's all about taking the heat off, and I can tell you now that all the talk in North Queensland at the moment is Matty Bowen. It's simple as that. The talk about Henry has gone away, and if you take a look at the Townsville Bulletin, the top 4 or 5 stories are all about Matty Bowen and something about Tate as well. So it's all about, let's do it for Matty, let's do this. They're playing on emotion. Not always a great thing, but if it gets you into the finals, then you can start clean again once the finals start. They have to win this match. I mean, I'm taking a look at the ladder now, and yes, I know the points difference is heavily in their favour, but look, Titans have to play the Storm, and I think it's a beautiful situation for the Cowboys to be in right now, because they've got the lesser team to play to get into the finals.
All right, let's look at the rest of the competition for this weekend. Manly Seagulls up against the Panthers. Manly, a good win against Melbourne last week. They're back at Brookvale tomorrow afternoon. How do you see it going?
Yeah, they're strong, Manly, and they're just such a physical side. Penrith play that sort of bit of flamboyant sort of footy off the back of Seguiaro there at dummy half, but Manly just got too much impetus in the forwards, I think.
I agree. Newcastle up against Parramatta at Hunter Stadium tomorrow afternoon as well. Newcastle need to win to make the finals. Will they win?
I think they should. Parramatta sitting down there at the bottom. If they don't beat them, then they don't deserve to be in the top 8.
I think that's a good way to leave that one there. The Raiders up against the Sharks. That will be the last match of the round Sunday. The Raiders up against the Sharks. Potentially Blake Ferguson's old club against his new club, if the rumours are correct. But who do you see winning this one, mate?
I'm actually gonna tip the Raiders in this one. Down there at home turf, they've had an ordinary year, a bit of a wretched year. Everything's gone against them. But as you said before, there's a lot of talent in that squad. And I think in front of their home crowd, the players themselves will be determined to finish on a good note, and I think they will.
I think that's a good tip. I think it's at home. They got a lot of, like you say, a lot of talented players there. But you've got to also take into consideration the Sharks missing Paul Gallen. There's talk that they're going to rest a lot of players. Todd Carney probably won't play. So I think that's a good tip. I think the Raiders will probably win that game as well and finish their season on a high after what's been a tough few weeks for them. We'll leave it there for the NRL here on Sports. We've got to go to a break. We come back and get Lee Hanatscheck on the phone to talk some motorsports. Stay with us.
Do you have a street light that's not functioning correctly outside your property? Perhaps you've noticed a flood light over a zebra crossing that's not operating. Well, Energex would like you to report it to them by calling 13 12 53 or completing an online form for faulty streetlights on their website at energex.com.au. Remember also that the council has to pay the running cost of all the streetlights, whether they're working or not. So let's get the most for our rateable dollar by reporting the streetlights not functioning to Energex on 13 12 53 or on their website energex.com.au.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. 24 minutes to 10. Your next fresh news update coming up at the top of the hour. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Craig Crowley, Ethan James, all here with you and joining us on the phone from the Australian Karting Association, and a very good friend of this show, Mr. Lee Hanatscheck. Lee, welcome back, mate.
Thanks, Kev. Great to be with you.
It's great to have you as always on the show, mate. And as is very common with you, you're on the road again, mate. What are you up to today?
Yeah, on the road again this weekend down at the Australian Speedway kart titles at Nepean, just outside of Sydney, Western Sydney. So action about to get underway here in the next half hour or so. So it should be a big day here. Bit of a difference. Speedway karts going around on the oval, but it should be a good weekend down here.
Absolutely, mate. Well, let's start with the Formula Ones before we get into anything else, then, mate. The drive was announced for Red Bull next year, and I don't think it surprised too many people, but it was great news for us Aussies.
Yeah, it didn't surprise anyone at all. I think in terms of motorsport, it was Daniel Ricciardo who got the gig, and it was justice for his hard work over the last 5, 6, 10 years. He's come through the Red Bull rookies ranks and come through the system, and been with Toro Rosso for a couple of years now, and graduated now to the top team. So it's great to see for Daniel. Great news for Australia that will once again have an Aussie in a top team in Formula One, and hopefully he can get some good results coming through.
That's it. Darren, what did you make of the promotion of Ricciardo?
Yeah, look, sensational news, dragged on a bit too long, and the story in the final week about his hips not fitting the car and all that sort of stuff was more smoke screen stuff to put people off. The silly circus was really being judged by what was going to happen at Red Bull, and from there on we see what happens. But we all knew, really, that why have a Red Bull driver academy, so to speak, if you're not going to bring them through. You brought Seb Vettel through, they did the right thing, and they're doing the right thing now, and I think Daniel's going to surprise a lot of people in that car next year, and I predict him to be up in that top 5 or 6.
Darren, I mean, he's got the raw talent there. He's certainly showed that in the past, and I think in one of the top cars he'll be good. I certainly think that he'll show a lot of people up. The interesting thing will be how will Seb Vettel react if he finds himself getting beaten by Ricciardo on a number of occasions. So that will be very interesting to see.
Yeah, he'll do what he usually does. He'll circle the wagons, to put it bluntly. I mean, I shudder. Look, I can't wait for Daniel to get his first front row start alongside him. And if that happens, yeah, it's going to be on. They won't be good bosom buddies anymore.
Well, that's the next question. I was going to go on with that one, mate. Like, what happens to the relationship between the two of them now? Like, we've seen how rocky it got between Webber and Vettel. What happens now with these two?
The same as it always happens in motorsport. I mean, if you've got two drivers who are performing at a high level, and you've got one, especially if you've got a young upstart coming through, taking on the established star, if he can't swipe him away, so to speak, and the young upstart starts performing, then they will try other things, sometimes even away from the track, to actually get what they want.
What do you think, Lee?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably not to that extent, but I think Super Vettel is out to look after himself, and that's it.
Yep.
I don't think he will give Daniel too many tips, but I don't think Daniel needs too many tips. I think he's proven to himself and many people over the years that he can handle himself in a variety of situations. And handling himself very, very well. So, I think it'll go well. I think the fact that he's come through the Red Bull outfit, I think he's got the support of the main people involved in the Red Bull links to get to where he is today, and he'll do a fantastic job.
Lee, what's the bet in the off season in Oxfordshire or wherever Mark lives, that he has a certain guest by the name of Daniel Ricciardo over for dinner a few times before the season starts?
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that at all. And being a fellow Aussie, I think that Mark would probably welcome that. Mark's the type of person who if he can share his knowledge, that it's not going to sort of bring him down, which I think this definitely will now, because he's no longer involved in Formula One. I think he'll be more than happy to share with another fellow Aussie. So yes, very, very much wouldn't doubt that whatsoever, that D. Ricciardo would come over and have one of Anne's roasts for a Sunday night.
All right, as I mentioned earlier, just repeating, we are at Monza this weekend, the Festival of Speed, the last of the horsepower tracks for the year, and Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber, after practice session 2, sitting on the front row there, and we've got Kimi Räikkönen, Romain Grosjean 3rd and 4th, Fernando Alonso 5th, and we have Daniel Ricciardo, and I had him before. Where's he gone? There he is. 17th spot in the Toro Rosso after the announcement. But you would think that he will have... I'd like to see him put in a great qualifying performance tonight, just to establish the announcement for the week, Lee.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that. I think he's just to finish those things off. I think it'll be a good thing for him to get a good result on the board and just prove to people that he deserves that spot. He doesn't need to prove to himself or anyone in the team, but just if there's any knockers out there that it's certainly the case that he deserves that place.
All right, just a bit of quick news. Räikkönen will drive a longer wheelbase Lotus this weekend at Monza, so keep a lookout for that tonight when you watch the qualifying, which I think is on around about 10 o'clock or something like that. A bit of a slightly different time tonight by about half an hour or so on the 10 network. Should be on 1HD, I think, with the race proper on 9:30 tomorrow night on the 10 network. And, mate, let's just take a quick look at NASCAR. Qualifying has pretty much just finished over in Richmond, and Jeff Gordon, and I must admit I'm a bit of a fan, Jeff Gordon has taken pole at Richmond International Raceway in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, and unfortunately for Marcus is a fair way down the grid, and I think he is staying next year, but gee, he needs to pick up his performances, especially against his teammate. He's 32nd on the grid for this race.
Yeah, no, certainly. Certainly will be interesting. I like you, Darren. Big fan of Jeff Gordon.
Yep.
Comes from the speedway background. Same with Tony Stewart. Great to see Jeff. Probably realistically, he hasn't got too many years left in him. But certainly great to see him up there. And Marcus has had a good result last weekend down at Atlanta, and showed that he can still mix it. The car is not great, but he can still mix it when it gets it all right.
Lee, just before we let you go, Rally Australia next week. Your thoughts?
Yep. Not a lot, because there hasn't been a lot of hype around it. I mean, unfortunately, World Rally Championship, it sort of hasn't got the hype it had sort of 5, 6, 8 years ago. Yevgeny Kazanikov during the week sort of made comment about the fact that, road position will be vitally important, which is, standard run-of-the-mill deal, really, isn't it? Yeah. If you're on a gravel rally, road position going to be important? Yeah, I think so. So it's great to have the rally here. The biggest thing is that it's got to get... It has not got the following that it once had here in Australia. Since it moved from the West Coast to the East Coast, it just does not have the excitement factor. Would you agree with that one, Darren?
I would, and the problem too, New Zealand are having this problem and they're trying to get a contract to fix it, is continuity. This business of having it alternating back and forth is really hurting getting sponsors and everything as well, so it's not good.
And the big thing there is, everything in sport is built on tradition.
Yeah.
No matter what you want, it is built on tradition. The final weekend in September, what's on? The AFL Grand Final. The first weekend in October, or second week in October, it's the Bathurst 1000. Rally Australia, we'll have that every second year, and on the same weekend as the Sandown 500, which is probably Australia's second or third, probably third or fourth biggest motorsport event. It just doesn't, they've got to start working together.
Absolutely, mate. Lee, thanks for joining us, mate. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks, guys. All the best.
Kevin?
Catch you around, mate. We'll take a break here on SportzScene. We'll come back. We'll talk to Paula Stewart about the whole world of netball. Stay with us. Welcome back to SportzScene here on 101 FM. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Craig Crowley, Ethan James, all here with you, taking you through to the top of the hour. It's 12 minutes to 10. Your next fresh news update coming up at 10 o'clock. But joining us on the line now from the Golden South Jags and SportzScene, very regular part of the show, Paula Stewart. Paula, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me back, everyone.
Absolute pleasure to always have you back on the show, Paula. Unfortunately, not the greatest news with the Aussie side going down to New Zealand in the World Cup final over there during the week.
No, it was a bit gut-wrenching, actually. Australia was looking pretty good all through the tournament, but we never took our eyes off the New Zealand players, New Zealand team. They were looking pretty good as well. Thought that we could have had it, especially in my opinion. They probably lost one of their best players, Cullen, who had an injury and she was sent home. But no, the Aussies couldn't finish it off in the end.
Paula, a lot of strange movements going on. As a coach, what did you think of the talk coming out of Glasgow from that final with some very strange changes, especially up the forward line?
I can only give my personal opinion. There was a lot of talk that's been going around on the different changes and everything. I did think that the change came with Gretel Tippett coming out on court with only just over 8 minutes in the last quarter. She made a huge change, getting 7 from 7, a couple of intercepts, and she seemed like she looked the team. So, but you know that Gretel's close to my heart, so I would probably always plug Gretel Tippett.
Yeah.
But I thought she had when she came on, she did very well. So, but yeah, there was a few different changes, but the only one that knows the team as well as they do is the coach. So you have to go with that.
Yeah, but we saw similar strange changes for the senior team earlier in the year, and we take a look at what's happened with Gretel there. I mean, everybody that I've spoken to who actually got to see footage of it streaming online reckons we should have had her on the court a lot earlier. She shot 7 from 7 for 100%.
Probably half time. That would have, but I mean, it's all good to say and hearsay now. But I would have liked to see Gretel on. They needed some sort of change up, and in my personal opinion, I thought the change was a bit too late.
Yep, fair enough. And we'll just take a look at the bronze medal game. Jamaica won the bronze medal 50-33 over England, which probably not entirely unexpected.
No, I thought Jamaica, they came out very strong. They were looking very good. England was starting to come back a little bit, but Jamaica always had that lead on them.
Fair enough. And actually, you wouldn't believe it. I'm just trying to find the score from the big game. Here we go. 52-47. Just a reminder, that was the final score. Australia 52, went down 52-47 to New Zealand. Let's turn our attention to the Australian matches coming up. We have a match next weekend, and Australia will be playing New Zealand in the bottom of the world, chilly Invercargill. They love their sport down there. I can understand it because it's probably the only way they can stay warm. And we've got Australia with Laura Geitz captaining the side coming up. What are your thoughts on the game against the Silver Ferns, the first one for the year?
Oh, well, I think it's always really close, Australia versus New Zealand. If someone's going to go there, I wish I could be there to watch the game. It was always an exciting game to watch. Laura Geitz being captain of the team, very exciting time for her first test to be captain. I would still tip, it's going to be a hard one. I would tip Australia for the first one. Only just though.
All right, just taking a look at those matches. We've got one on the 15th, which is next Sunday. Another one midweek on the 19th in Auckland, and then they come back here to Australia to play on the 4th of October in Adelaide, the 7th of October in Melbourne, and the 13th of October in Canberra. After that, we have a couple of tests which will be split by Netfest on the Gold Coast, but those couple of tests will be played in Wollongong on the 16th and on the Gold Coast on the 19th against Malawi, the Malawi Queens. So, but we'll get through the New Zealand games first because they're the ones we wait for every year, and we'll take you through the results and details and preview each match as we go along. Paula, the Firebirds were announced during the week, and I'll just go through the 2014 Firebirds. Your Mission Queensland Firebirds for 2014 will be Romelda Aiken, Laura Geitz captain, Nicola Gray, Demelza McLeod, Claire McMiniman comes out of retirement, Jacinta Mesa, Stephanie Puapolo from she's the last minute signing from the Adelaide Thunderbirds, I believe, Kimberly Ravillon, Verity Simmons, Gabby Simpson, Amelia Ann Wells from Bundaberg, and Amorette or Amy Wild. So that's the team. There's about 5 Queenslanders in there, Paula. I'll just go through them. We've got Laura Geitz, Demelza McLeod, Claire McMiniman, Jacinta Mesa and Amelia Ann Wells. Realistically, though, how many of those 5 do you think we'll see on court on a regular basis?
Well, the defence end, I think that Queenslanders do produce great defenders. So I'm so glad to see Claire McMiniman back in the Firebirds team. I think she'll be raring to go. She's had the year off. And it's fantastic to see her back in the team. Jacinta Mesa is always a workhorse as well. And Demelza McLeod, she should be getting that experience with the Oz squad against the Malawi team. And having Laura Geitz, of course, the Australian captain. So a pretty decent defence end that Firebirds have got there. Which is really good to see. Yep. Amelia Ann Wells hopefully she'll get some more court time this year. So we haven't really seen her play in the last 4 years. So hopefully she'll be able to get a quarter or 2 this year out on court.
You're listening to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. We're talking to Paula Stewart, head coach of the Golden South Jags. Paula, I know you've got a few thoughts on some of the teams. You've also got thoughts on some really great Queensland Cup players who probably may have just missed out or should have been in people's thoughts. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I've got 4 players that come to mind, and they're Steph Wood, Laura Sherian, Sally Butters and Chanel Dyer. That's 3 centre courts and 1 shooter. Steph Wood, just having a look at her, she has had great experience as well. She has been at the AIS 2010, 2011. She was in the 21s Australian in 2011, where they played New Zealand and won the series 2-1. We've got Laura Sherian at the AIS for 3 years, 07, 08 and 09. 21 Australian team in 08, 09. She toured New Zealand, Jamaica, World Youth Cup, World Youth Competition, where they won gold. She was in the Firebirds in 2010. Sally Butters, 21s Australian squad in 2011. Chanel Dyer, 21s team for the Cook Islands, and she played at the World Youth Competition as well. That's where they came 6th, and she played against Australia and England in that tournament as well. And she was in the 21s Australian squad 2010, 2011. these 4 girls, in my personal opinion, they have really proved themselves in the QCC comp in Queensland. And 3 of them were in the A&L. Chanel Dyer had other things on at that time. But they all have really proved themselves, and it's probably a little bit disappointing, in my point of view, that not one, maybe even 2 of them, I feel that could have had a crack at the Firebirds.
Yeah, I obviously, I agree with you because, my thoughts on the QCC are quite public in that we should be using it more as a ground to bring players through. I mean, the girls are without question good enough. Laura Sherry, and I'm a massive fan of and have been for a number of years. I've never seen probably hardly anybody work as hard on the court as she does. She's probably got the biggest engine in the sport, certainly in the state of Queensland. But just tell us a little bit about Chanel Dyer, because she first came to my attention. She's a very young girl who I saw her one day against you guys at the Jags literally tear you guys apart single-handedly for a whole quarter.
Oh, she ripped us apart in that quarter. Well, This year she's even stepped up even more. In the grand final, when it was Cougars against Tigers in our QCC comp, she actually got player of the match. Her flair, she's really worked hard on her fitness this year. She was giving it all that she had to see how far she can go. And she's really stepped up in the game, and she's an exciting player to watch. But she's always been around. When she used to play for the 19s comp here in Queensland, she actually got player of the series there as well. So she's she's very well known in Queensland, that she always seems to be one of the top players. And this year she's proved even more, which has been fantastic. And with her and Sally Butters and the Cougars team working together, they were just lethal this year. So it's not just their fitness, their speed. I would probably rate as well Sally Butters as one of the most craftiest people on court. Her brains on court and how she just knows where to place the ball in the feeds is, it's very inspiring to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you on that, and we'll discuss this a bit more over the coming weeks. We have the test matches to go through once again next week. We'll have the result of our test match for next week. I'll just take you very quickly before we go. We haven't got much time, but the squad for this weekend is Laura Geitz, Bianca Chatfield as captain and vice captain respectively. Kimberly Green is also a vice captain. Caitlin Bassett, Erin Bell, Madison Brown, Rebecca Bully, Paige Hadley, Renee Hallinan, Shani Layton, Demelza McLeod, great get there, and Nat Medhurst, Kimberly Ravillon, and Caitlin Thwaite. So we wish them all the luck on the weekend. Paula, thank you so much. We shall catch you again next week.
Okay, thanks, Darren. Thanks, everyone.
No worries at all, Paula. We'll get you on next week. We're going to wrap it all up here on Sports Scene. We're out of time for another week. Gee, it's been a jam-packed show. So much to talk about, so much happening, and it's only going to get more in the coming weeks. How about a tip for the weekend? Ethan, we'll start with you.
Didn't speak about it throughout the show, but I'm going to back the Wallabies to get up tonight against the Springboks.
Yes, we didn't have a lot of time to get into the rugby today, but a few changes to that side. Folau back to fullback, Quade Cooper into the 10. Be interesting to see how they go on that one. I'm backing them too. What do you think?
I'm going to get in early. Richmond to beat Carlton. They should win. And Jaeger O'Meara, well done, rising star.
Darren, what about you, mate?
Good luck to my Hermit Park beating Thurringau this weekend. Eat 'em alive, Tigers!
And I'm back in the Cowboys. I'm firmly back on the bandwagon for the North Queensland Cowboys. They're in the 8. Let's see how they go. Catch you next week. Bye.